global energy markets are important. Global energy markets are undergoing a change. Global energy markets are stable in spite of those changes. There was so much of turmoil. Price didn't go below 60 or even slightly below 60. It didn't shoot up. I used to have arguments with one of my CMDs. Used to say, one previous IOCL chairman, I won't name him, but everybody knows, he'll go to 90, he'll go to 90. I think he'll go nowhere. Because as somebody who doesn't know the sector very well, but I know a little bit about the doctrine of common sense, if more and more energy is coming on the market from Guyana, from Suriname, from Brazil, there's enough supply. Now, if you allow some of that supply to come into the global markets, prices will remain stable. So I think the message from this is that, look, we are all in this together, consumers and producers, and if we play the game in a constructive way, beyond this I will not go because it will become a political statement, which this is not a political platform. I think it's very important that we all put our heads together and with a sense of purpose navigate this forward. Some other highlights I'll share and then I'll open it up for discussion or questions. As I said, 9th round table of the Prime Minister, which will have large number of foreign CEOs, Indian private sector CEOs, and Indian public sector people also. Then there's an India-Arab energy dialogue, which will be, which I will co-chair in Goa. We have confirmed participation from some of the big players in the Arab world in this sector. We have an India-Japan roundtable, which will be a follow-up to the sessions I had in Tokyo, which I think Neeraj will open. Then we have an India-Iceland roundtable. We have an India-Netherlands roundtable. We have an India-US IBC. We have country pavilions, 11 of them. Japan, UK, Germany, Italy, US, Netherlands, Norway, Canada, Russia, and China. And I'll be having, of course, as you say, you have to sing for your supper. Those days from 26th to 30th, I'll be having any number of bilateral meetings, and so will my colleague, the secretary, and others. I've given you these facts because I think these facts speak for themselves, because you see the scale and how it's growing. You know, this is one sector in which, I hate to say this, but if you are, it's like cycling. If you're standing still, you'll fall. So if you are, moving ahead, and then the distance you covered and the, energy that you consume, all that is very clearly measured, and it is measurable, and it can be measured on a year-by-year basis. All I can say is that from the time that we last met in Goa, or we last met in the IEW, the world has become more exciting. In some ways, it has become more challenging. And this challenging in spite of the fact that there is really no shortage of energy globally. But there are certain other factors. But I think the strength of the IEW lies essentially, as indeed the strength of the other global platforms, in being able to conduct serious discussion between young entrepreneurs, innovators, startups, established energy suppliers, established energy buyers, new entrants into the energy field in a very stable environment, planning ahead. None of us is a soothsayer. We don't know what will happen tomorrow. I always consciously try to avoid answering what will happen if. We're not in that world. All I can say is that India, in the 5 years that I've been associated, almost 5 years that I've been associated with this ministry, we faced many challenges. We've navigated that. And on the fundamental task of the trilemma that we have to address, availability, affordability, and sustainability, I think on all three fronts we've done reasonably well. And you could say that today India offers an example of being able to occupy, I wouldn't use the word center stage, but a very important place in the emerging global energy scenario. I'm going to stop at that. If my colleague wants to say anything, either of them. Otherwise, we'll open it up for some rounds of interaction.
Yes. Can kindly raise your hand? Yeah. Yes, please. Yes, madam. You and I. Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Parvinder Sandhu from UNI. And first of all, a very, very happy new year to you. And wishing you all best for the upcoming IEW. So I have I have two questions. As you mentioned that, since the last IEW, we have faced many challenges. So, given the changing geopolitical situation, how is India positioning itself with the global energy partners ahead of IEW? And my second question is, what are the new policies or incentives that will be highlighted at IEW to attract foreign investment in country's energy sector?
Thank you very much. I am glad you asked this question. Given the very nature of this sector, you don't prepare for an IEW 5 days in advance. It's something that goes on all. I'll try and speak to the second part of your question, and I'll come to the first. One is we've carried out mind-boggling changes. Madam, we have something like 3.5 million square meters of sedimentary basin. For a very long time, that sedimentary basin was not utilized. Today, we are in the happy situation that a little while ago, the Prime Minister opened up 1 million square kilometers of that sedimentary basin for exploration and production. So in the 9th round of the open acreage licensing policy, 80% of the bids which came into that area. Earlier, it was no-go area because our defense, our Coast Guard, our DRDO and others, wanted to use that as holy cow. In any country which is in a place in situation similar to ours, there will always be domestic pools. I know this is for defense, that is for... What happened to the drone policy that happened. But, the direction is very clear. We went. More than that, opening up, we also have a new law in place. And that law came into place, I think, end of last year. We were able to get it through the Rajya Sabha earlier and then through the Lok Sabha, I think towards November or something like that. So the new, what is it called, Oilfield Regulation and Development Act, it's very progressive. So it's been a series of changes which have been taking place. I would start from 2016 when we went from production sharing agreements to revenue sharing agreements. We went from, several other measures. And then this opening up of this 1 million square kilometers, then the new legislation. Earlier, we were under a 1948 law, which was common to both mining and petroleum leases. So we've been able to separate the two because there are fundamental differences in this area. On how we are positioning ourselves, look, it's very simple. It's a rapidly expanding and rapidly changing global environment. Two things I want to tell you. One of the positioning has been, for instance, that earlier, before I came on, we were buying crude from something like 27 sources, 27 geographies, countries. Today, we are buying from 41. We basically allow the market to propel the essential decision making. But market is like, even if market were an independent entity with its own intelligence, AI or something, somebody has to take the decision. But if you follow broadly a system that you float tenders at the point of importation. Like if the point of importation is, let's say, West Coast, then you need so much of, say, light Basra, or you need a different... There's something like, 400 grades of crude, etc. We use, 280 of them, or I don't remember. So you float a tender, then whoever floats a tender, whoever comes in earlier. Of course, it also means sometimes navigating through difficult scenarios because sometimes a traditional supplier is no longer available or is becoming difficult for some reason or the other. I remember when I joined 5 years ago, our annual intake was about 5 million barrels, out of which about 800,000 barrels used to come from 5 or 6 established suppliers. The Emiratis, the Saudis, the Kuwaitis, the Iraqis, and maybe another 800,000 from everybody put together. Today it's different. Today we have new suppliers, and then before February 22, we had negligible supplies from one source. Then it suddenly went up quite a bit. Now it's moderating a little, etc. But in the market is a determinant. Will more energy from Venezuela, Iran come on the market? I really don't know. But I don't see that going down. No matter what happens in Venezuela and Iran, I have a feeling that at some stage or the other, more energy will come. But notice one thing, more and more energy is coming onto the global market from the Western Hemisphere. By Western Hemisphere, I mean Brazil, Guyana, Suriname, Canada, the US is producing 13 million barrels a day. So we position ourselves in this. We have very strong relationships which are traditional. Some of them were in the energy sector, but are now not in the energy sector. So we are, as long as we are able to navigate, and I think with that in the coming period, we will be able to navigate forward.
Yes, please.
So, my name is John for the post from breakingnews. Since you mentioned about Canada, you have met the trade minister in October last year, and then the Premier of British Columbia recently. And since we have a delegation coming in from Canada, will we be utilizing the
See, my friend, what happens is that Canada, it's clear to everybody, our contacts with the Canadians are increasing. There was a phase in between for a variety of reasons, which guys know better than I do. There was a little bit of, looking the other way. I don't want to go into that factor now. But you're right, I met the Trade Minister, Mr. Sandhu, I think. Yes. Then I met the Premier of British Columbia, who came to see me a few days ago. And then I think there's a Canadian minister visiting, you're right, for the IEW. My position is quite clear. We already have some investments there. India now, if I remember correctly, Aisha, correct me, IOCL is already as an investment in natural gas there. And the Canadian authorities are setting up 6 liquefaction plants. So I think what our guys would be interested in is to ensure that they get recourse to this liquefaction plant so that they can bring that gas to India. So this is happening all over the world. By the way, I want to tell you, I want to share one piece of news with you. It's already in the public domain. We have apprised our stock market also on the 14th of January. One Indian special purpose vehicle called Bharat Urja Private Limited, which is a conglomerate of IOCL and BPRL, which is the BPCL overseas arm. They had bid for a block in the UAE, and they've struck this thing, oil. I think the estimates were that it has about 100 billion barrels of reserves. So if you can, let's say by a yardstick, which is normal, extract 8% of that, our share would be 4%, which is again very substantial if it's 50-50. And it would be equivalent to something like 2 years of our overall crude imports. I mean, and if our annual imports are $150 billion and leave aside a little for gas, there's a lot of crude there. So all I'm saying is that whether it is Brazil, with which we are signing with Petrobras, or it's Canada or our other suppliers, I don't foresee in the coming period any shortage of energy. You have to negotiate this, and you have to negotiate good prices, etc. So I think this is the market, and by virtue of the fact that today we are one of the bigger consumers, it also gives us a little bit of a positioning inside the world, because people who have energy would surely want to sell it, and if we can position ourselves to get proper long-term agreements. Same thing has happened with gas. When the UAE president was here, we signed for, I think, $2 billion of gas coming in from UAE. This was an HPCL agreement I exchanged, but there was another $2 billion which we've done earlier. If you look at the IOCL, that's about $8 billion of gas coming in from UAE alone in a year. So that should give you an idea of how much of activity is taking place here.
Money control.
Sir, Shubhangi from Business Standard. Wanted to understand with the changing geopolitics, India's crude sourcing strategy.
I beg your pardon?
India's crude sourcing strategy. Russia was supplying at 1.8 million BPD. Now it's close to 1.1.
See, listen, this is about IEW. And enhancing your understanding of the global geopolitics is something I also want to understand. But I am not going to get into what strategy will be, because I don't make the strategy. You get it? I mean, the private sector buys from them, the public sector companies buy, whether it's 1.8 or 1.5 or 1.3 or goes up. I'm not going to get involved in that discussion. And by the way, I don't think any country discusses its strategy through a press conference.
Sure. What I wanted to understand is, do we see it declining
No,
further?
you are now asking the question through a different way. I welcome that if the setting were different, because anything I say will tomorrow, my fire brigade friends are here. It'll be a screaming headline. Indian minister says that. Forget it. Look, I've been too long in the game to fall for this one.
Yes, madam. Yes.
Try another one. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes. Good afternoon, sir.
One minute. There's a lady here.
Yes, good afternoon. First of all, many thanks to you, to your ministry for organizing again such a big event, and especially in one of my favorite states of India. So my question
You like
is,
Goa
of course, who doesn't like Goa?
I also like Goa, but some of them were telling me last time when it was in Delhi, Delhi is better, it's easier. Nidhi was telling me that.
All of us say hi, man.
I
You
think
all like
it's a-
Goa? No, you?
Delhi is the best place.
Oh, I know. See, so we have a
No,
different
I think
opinion.
it's
Okay.
always good to change
Okay,
the
fine.
ambience
Yeah.
one city to. So you will host so many participants in this Energy Week, and my question is: what is India's main goal? What is your key message which you want to convey to energy producers, to global energy producers through this
I'm very happy.
Energy Week?
Ma'am, I'm so
like,
happy.
I don't know, to be together, to
No,
control
I
the
don't-
prices.
No,
What can it be?
See,
Key message of yours.
See, I'll tell you, I'm so happy, ma'am, that you've asked this question. I believe that the old mindset, by the old mindset, I mean where there was a energy crisis in the 70s, where energy consumers were pitted against energy producers. That is an old mindset. Today, I believe both energy producers and energy consumers have a stake in the viability and the strength and predictability of the system. Let me tell you how. If oil prices really shoot up, I'm giving you examples which are stark. If they go up to, as they did after the economic lockdown, first they came down to $19.56 per barrel, and then they shot up to what, 128 or something like that. That's neither good for the consumers nor good for the producers. Insofar as the consumers are concerned, they will be completely weighed down by the impact on their budget. Okay? Equally, if the price goes very much down, there is no incentive for people to invest in the sector. What has happened sometimes, and I say this even at the fair that I'll be quoted, but even when OPEC Plus sets its quota, not every country in the OPEC Plus group is able to meet its quota because they haven't been investing in that. Now, a typical crude oil facility, if you have it, say, in the year like Mumbai high was 1976, it was very high production at one stage. Slowly over per year, the production keeps declining. You have to invest in order to be able to rejuvenate the facility. In the case of Mumbai High, since I'm giving you an example, BP is doing that, and BP and ONGC are very hopeful that this will be a major revival. Now, if oil prices go very much below, also they're not. For me, I'm wearing that, I don't say hat, but I'm wearing the Indian petroleum minister's turban or a hat. I'll be very happy if prices are down. I'll be happy on behalf of the country because my balance of payments, if I'm importing $150 billion worth of energy, if that bill goes down. But even within my own system, two companies, ONGC and OIL, will not be happy because they are producing. India is not only a large buyer, India is also a very large exporter. But my downstream companies are very happy, IOCL, BPCL, HPCL. So it's always a mixed bag. But I tell my guys, you forget about your parochial company quarter-on-quarter profit figures. What you should look at is the overall picture. And I think the overall picture is very positive. This kind of a platform, why does it bring in people from Russia, China, US, Japan, others? Because energy is the lifeline of an economy. And if the Indian economy is growing, clearly the energy consumption is going up. Because the energy consumption is going up, India is a good place, or India is a, whether you like Goa or not, that young lady doesn't like Goa, she likes Delhi. That is because I'll have to discuss this with her separately. I frankly like Delhi, but I like Goa in this time of the year. So I'm coming to that. I think the message is manifold. One, global energy markets are important. global energy markets are undergoing a change. Global energy markets are stable in spite of those changes. There was so much of turmoil. Price didn't go below 60 or even slightly below 60. It didn't shoot up. I used to have arguments with one of my CMDs, used to say, one previous IOCL chairman, I won't name him, but everybody knows, he'll go to 90, he'll go to 90. I think he'll go nowhere. Because as somebody who doesn't know the sector very well, but I know a little bit about the doctrine of common sense, if more and more energy is coming on the market from Guyana, from Suriname, from Brazil, there's enough supply. Now, if you allow some of that supply to come into the global markets, prices will remain stable. So I think the message from this is that, look, we are all in this together, consumers and producers. And if we play the game in a constructive way, beyond this I will not go because it will become a political statement, which this is not a political platform. I think it's very important that we all put our heads together and with a sense of purpose, navigate this forward.